Hi, and welcome to the Jody Christian Show, also known as The J Show. Today on J, I will be interviewing a notable Indian author named Kamala Mukherjee. In this interview, we will be discussing her novel Nectar in a Sieve and important issues like marriage, gender roles, love, tannery, suffering, and hope that her main characters Rukamani and her family went through. Before we bring out Kamala, I would like to take time out for you, my audience, to better understand her life and how it affected her novel. Kamala was born in the city of Bangalore, southern India in 1924. She was born into the highest caste of India. After attending university, she took a small job at a newspaper company. She then came to know the villages of India, where most of India's population lived. Afterwards, she moved to England in 1948 and got married. Although she no longer lived in India, she went back for frequent visits. In Nectar in a Sieve, her first book published in 1954, Kamala's main characters were also from southern India, but they were tenant farmers, a lower caste than she was. From those frequent visits, she used what she saw from the poor villages to help create her characters. The problems her character faced were very real for most people living in India. During her time spent in the villages, she noticed poverty and starvation which she knew firsthand. In 1943, the starvation in Bengal of epic proportions took over 3 million lives. Due to the extreme poverties, characters in her novel would do anything to feed themselves. Her characters were also faced with industrial revolution. In Kamala's life, the British were building railroads in India and they believed they were benefiting the people of India. In Nectar in a Sieve, tanneries were built and it too was also supposed to help the people find jobs, but it also raised the prices on goods, which in return made life harder for the people. Throughout the novel, Rukmani was hopeful but never became a reality. This novel is both very sad and touching. Kamala does not give a specific time the novel took place, but it seems to have taken place after India gained their independence from Britain in 1947. So let's begin our interview. Hi, Kamala, and welcome to the J Show. Today I brought you here to talk about your novel, Nectar in a Sieve. It starts off with the main character, Rukmani, getting married. Why was her marriage arranged? Hi, and it's nice to be here, Jody. In India, it is a part of our religion for parents to arrange a marriage for us. Most are arranged so the woman's family can find a good match for their daughter. Before Rukmani was married, her mother said, "And what for you, baby? Is 4 dowries too much for a man to bear?" Her mother really wanted a good husband for her, but they didn't have a good dowry to offer to a good match, so she was stuck marrying a tenant farmer, but that was the best her family could do at the time. So that's why women's marriage in India is arranged. Well, what if she did not like him or want to marry him? Her marriage was picked by her parents for a reason, so she must obey. So, what would happen if the marriage didn't last? It had to. Otherwise, the woman would be frowned upon and blamed. Whoa, that does not seem right. Were there man and woman roles in society? Yes, there was. And in Rukmani's case, she had to bear sons and take care of the house while Newton worked the field. Stereotypical female and male roles. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And I added this in the beginning of the novel after they got married so readers could pick up on this quote. It was my husband who wrote me, my husband whom I called Nathan, although in all the years of marriage I never called him that. for it was not meet for a woman to address her husband except for as husband. Also, after Rukmani had her first child, Arwadi, she couldn't have any more kids. Nathan made it very clear to her that he was worried and he needed and wanted sons to help him out in the field. She must have been under immense pressure. Yes, she was, and she secretly sought help from a white doctor named Kenny. And because of Kenny, she then bared a lot of sons. Was there love between Rukmani and Nathan? Yes, there definitely was. When the land they lived on could not grow food to be harvested, Rukmani stepped in and helped Nathan with farming. Nathan was compassionate and a loving husband. Rukmani appreciated him very much. So, how did the children feel towards one another when food was so low? Did they compete for food, or did they just love one another and share? No, they loved one another. In the novel, Arwadi returns home from a failed marriage due to her not being able to have any kids. One of Rukmani's oldest sons points out, "There's little food, and not enough since she came back home." Rukmani replied, "You would grudge your own sister a mouthful who eats half what I give her so that you boys can have more?" He defends himself and says he does not grudge her. There's just little food, and more reason for them to earn money to help to contribute to the family. And when times got even harder, Rukmani's daughter even started prostituting herself. When we return, we will finish this interview with Kamala about her book, Nectar in the Sieve. We have to stop for a commercial break. Come on down to the tannery. We're now selling cowhides. Everything must go now. We're having a big sale. $50. Come on down to the tannery. 5555 West 10th Avenue. Hi, and welcome back to the J Show. I'm still sitting here with Kamala discussing her book Nectar in a Sieve. So, we left off discussing your kids' relationships with one another and how they love each other and would do anything to help support the family. Your daughter sold herself and ate less to help the family. This is all very touchy. Did your sons also find a job? Yes, Jody, they actually did. Their situation was horrible, but that tannery commercial was very interesting. Rukmani's son actually managed to get a job there to help support the family. Rukmani said in the book they were earning good wages, a rupee for a day's work, and without fail they would hand me their earnings, keeping nothing back. Her sons went to work to help support their family, and no matter what, they would give all the money they made to Rukmani. And that is very nice. Did the tannery affect Rukmani and her family's lives? It seemed like your characters were dependent on agriculture, and now they seem dependent on the tannery. India seemed to transform at this point, and your family relied more on the tannery. Yes, they did. The land was not good to them, but the tannery helped get jobs. But on the downside, the tannery also raised prices on goods. Life was much harder because of that. The tannery was foreign and Rukmani was not used to it. And yes, it did make things harder. There seemed to be a lot of poverty in this novel that kind of did contribute towards Rukmani and her family's suffering. Yes, of course, Rukmani lost her children either through death or because they left. She also watched her family starve, and eventually her husband died after they were kicked off their land. The worst thing a mother can see is her children die before she does. Yes, no parent does. I got really sad when she described the part where she found Kuti dead. This part. I went to him and saw that his eyes were sightless. Already a thin film was overspreading them. I picked him up and held him to me. He was so light I might have been holding a handful of leaves. He was dead. Yes, that part was extremely hard on Milkamani, because not only did her lost son die, he died because she couldn't provide food for him. That's why he was so light and felt like leaves. Very sad. To end this interview, I did not like how you gave your characters hope. Hope that would never be reality. Rukmani put so much hope into the land, and it seemed to always let her down. She hoped so much that hope made her more fearful. She hoped that the land would produce for her that made her fear that someone would ever steal from the land. Quote from the book: "The figure was there. I threw myself at it. No one but Kanti could be coming so stealthily by night to thief from us." She attacked the figure who turned out to be her own daughter. Oh my God. She was hoping that the land would produce for her and her family so that she would be able to pay the landlord and have some food to eat. So, after reading this book, I find Rukmani a strong woman that tried her best to produce for her family. Thank you for coming to the show, Kamal. Thank you for having me on the J Show. Nectar and a Sieve is an emotional and wonderful book. A lot of people in India still live in poverty. Could you imagine mainly eating rice if you were lucky to have any? Rukmani went through an arranged marriage, generals, love, tyranny, suffering, and false hope, and through it all she still remained strong. Thank you for watching the J Show. Everyone, please clap for Kamala for taking time out of her day to come here and talk to us about her novel, Nectar and a Sieve. Thank you.